everybody dislikes icebreakers to some extent. I know my introverted people out there, introverted students, like cannot stand them. And yet they're still really important, especially if you have a mix of kids that don't know each other very well. So I found one that does really work, and I have to give credit to a teacher whose name I cannot remember, but you were at the Shakespeare Institute at Agnes Scott College in Georgia in 2024, and you showed the group how to do this. Thank you so much if you ever happen to see this, because it's my favorite icebreaker now. My kids loved it. So I made a slideshow of the directions for this. I'll paste this link to it in the description of this video, but basically, so you can make your own copy, but essentially it works like this. Kids work in groups to find something they all have in common, but then they have to present kind of like a freeze frame pose for the rest of the class to guess what it is they have in common. So if you're not familiar with this word here, tableau comes from tableau vivant, which is like a French word. I think it means living pictures. It's a really common English class activity. I've done it with vocabulary, with scenes from drama, where students in a group have to figure out how to visually present some concept or idea or scene, but in a still way. And so that's a lot of fun by itself, but this extra layer it's a representation of something everyone in the group has in common. So here's kind of how you set it up. I suggest groups of 4 to 5 kids. If you have really big classes, maybe 6 you could get away with, but give them a couple minutes to make a list of some of things that every single person in the group has in common. No low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by low-hanging fruit are the super obvious things like we all have a shirt on. Well, I would hope so, right? You're at school. So pick something a little bit. It doesn't have to be fascinating, but something not quite that obvious. So for example, we all have a younger sibling, or we all rode the bus to school. I don't know, something, that you wouldn't be able to necessarily guess right away. And then if they have multiple ones to choose from, give them a minute to pick their best, which should be maybe the most unique trait of their group. So they do that kind of in group secretly away from one another, and they don't shout out what their thing is that they've picked, because then they have to put it together. So give them a few minutes to practice on their feet of how they're going to stand and arrange themselves, and help the audience guess what that thing is. They can't talk during the tableau. They can't move. It's almost like a picture is all they're looking at. So for example, I had a group where the thing was that they all had at least one younger sibling. They did this where they had like a big sister in the group. It was like, annoyed. And then they had little siblings were the other members of the group doing really annoying kid things, like pulling at their shirt or making faces or fighting over a toy or something like that. So the group was able to guess that one. And yeah, a unique thing about them, they all had at least one younger sibling. So for students to actually guess it, what you'll do, and again, that teacher in Georgia, thank you for this idea too. She said, what I've done with this too is you tell the rest of the class, close curtains, and they cover their eyes or close their eyes. Well, a group goes up and gets their picture like in place, and they hold it, and then you say, open curtains, and then they open their eyes, and then they see it. And then people in the audience start shouting out what they think it is, and the group in the tableau has to hold the pose until someone guesses. So that adds a little level of silliness. They're trying not to move, they're trying not to laugh. And it's good if you know what they are, like if you have them whisper it to you, so you can maybe give clues if it's like it kind of goes way off base, but that is basically how they do it, and then each group goes. So it doesn't take super long. I think it maybe took 15 minutes to get through this activity. With maybe 3 groups going, and 3 or 4 groups in one of my classes. But it was actually a really fun icebreaker, and they said that was one they had never done before, which is the hardest thing about icebreakers, right? Especially if you have kids that know each other pretty well, or the teachers use the same ones in your building. So get your copy of this slideshow and change the directions to suit your needs in the description. But anyway, I hope that helps you out and gives you a fun idea for an icebreaker for the beginning of the year or whenever you do some group work.